Hello everyone and welcome. I'm really excited today because we have local band director Joel who has joined us for a discussion on his unique perspective on how he runs his band program. And it's so unique that we felt it would be very beneficial to share it with everyone. And so welcome for joining us today, Joel.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, a couple of years ago, Joel came in and he provided us with a discussion on how to run your music program like a CEO. And I took a lot away from that. And so we have invited him back to have more discussion on how he runs his music program and to provide some tips for us as we move forward. Okay? All right, so Joel, to kick things off, tell us about your motto for your particular music program, and talk to us about what makes it successful.
Well, my motto for music teaching is music is for everyone.
Yes.
I've never met a person ever that doesn't like music. So that's one of the things that we really have as music teachers is the ability to say the people that are in our class like music. They like the subject that they're learning. So we've got that going for us. That's one of our big tricks to loving our jobs. In terms of model for successful music teachers, I think that the trick is plan ahead. You cannot be a procrastinator in this business. I like to set my schedule a year in advance. I'm not saying things can't change, but just have that out to parents right away. And I like to have kids well aware and communicate with them right away, like what we're going to be doing throughout the year, so that they have a big overview. I feel like that's the key to success. If you procrastinate, try to throw things in at the last minute or something like that, fundraisers, all that stuff, you run into trouble. But planning ahead is the key to success, and that's essentially my motto.
You know, planning ahead is really, really important. Recruitment is also important, when it comes to a music program. And so talk to us about your success in recruiting students and how you actually plan for that.
Yeah, so this is actually one of my favorite things to do now. I honestly have changed a lot of the things that I've done from being a first-year teacher. This is starting my 16th year teaching.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It feels much, no, I'm just kidding. This is great. The keys to recruitment really are getting involved with the kids that are coming up to your class, and we do it several ways. I like to involve them in all aspects of the ensembles that we have out at the school I teach at. We have a jazz ensemble, we have a symphonic band, we have a marching band, and we do percussion ensemble. So I try to create an event where kids can be a part of it throughout the year. For marching band, we have a band day, what we call a band day, where the kids come over and they participate in a game. They get to march in with the kids. They get to have food with us. They get to play the pregame with us, and they get to sit in the stands and play music with us. For concert band, we have kind of a joint concert. Try to do that once a year. Sometimes we combine groups together so they get an opportunity to meet the older kids and stuff like that. And for jazz ensemble, one of my favorite events that we do is an art fest that we have, in which we have the middle school group comes out and essentially is our opening act for the high school group. And we always have a big conglomeration band together where we join in and play one mass band song and stuff like that. So that included me going over and being a part of the middle school, especially the 8th graders' journey to the high school, answering their questions, putting my face with the program so they can see what they're being a part of. That's been really successful. It also helps to tell them, hey, we're going to Orlando or we're going somewhere else next year, which is one of the things that we're always able to do by planning an event in advance. We pretty much know the year ahead what we're going to do the following year. So I think that really gets some excitement for the program and stuff like that.
Yes, performance travel is huge.
Yeah.
It brings the students together. And so I love it that you also include that in your recruitment process. What advice would you give a director who is down about recruitment because they haven't had success?
Every year is different.
Okay.
Every class is different. As I say, it takes a while to learn that and to trust that, maybe you had a tricky year, or maybe you just had a year where the kids don't seem as motivated or whatever. Just trust that next year could be better. And just keep trying and adjusting the things that you do recruiting. We have not always done the same things that I've done. A couple years ago we did a different event for the symphonic band and stuff like that. I try to evaluate at the end of the year what worked, what didn't work, and then hopefully tweak it to try to make it better. But it is definitely a ebb and flow.
Absolutely.
With recruiting, and there are years when I recruit tons and tons of kids, and then I'll have a really small class and a really large class. But if you trust that the process will ebb and flow a little bit, I think you won't be as frustrated with it.
Great advice, great advice. So once you recruit the students in and you have them, and you're teaching them and they're learning all of these wonderful things about music, how do you retain the students?
Yeah, so again, travel is a big thing. We travel every year. It's important with travel that you pick a trip that not only is exciting for younger kids, maybe it's their first time they've been out of the state or whatever, but also that also is appealing to an adult student, because one of my other philosophies is that the students are going to eventually become adults. When they leave, they're adults, and so we've got to give them opportunities to, explore and discover things that they're passionate about and exciting for them. So that's a big thing with retainment. I feel like it's easier to retain the upperclassmen. I make a really good point to go after the younger kids too. I think as you come in, if you're in 8th grade and you come into 9th grade, in 8th grade, you're a top dog, and then all of a sudden you're at the bottom of the totem pole.
That's right.
So what do? Well, I think as a director, I try to create events or things that can feature the younger kids. One of the things we do in this county is we have an honor band that is only freshmen and sophomores. So they get to right away get the opportunity to kind of meet the students that they interact with around the region, and they also get to be leaders of band. And that way they don't feel like they have to wait 3 years before they can play the first part, which is very significant to some kids. So that's been very helpful for us. The other thing that I would always give advice to all teachers is you got to know their names. If you, in our business, we can have, I don't know, I think I have 180 students this year. It's hard to learn that many names. But it's not really one of my strengths. So I really have to work on it. And I've taken all sorts of little trick classes to try to learn how to get everybody's name. But I think it's important to know their names, know a little bit about each one of the students, and so that when you see them in the hallway, or you see them in class, or you see them practicing or doing whatever, just always interact with them. It's a big part of our job to be outspoken member of the school, and just really to give every student an opportunity, not just the upperclassmen. And that's been pretty successful. But I do think the big thing is the travel thing more than anything. I just think that there's nothing like a band trip. I think anybody that's traveled will say that, or acquired trip.
It's true. It's true.
You'll remember it your whole life, and it's really the time where you can bond with your students. They can get to know you. You can be silly. You don't have to be professor all the time. I think that's one of the things that I like.
You're absolutely right. I tell everyone, one of the only teachers I remember is my band teacher, because we took trips and he made it fun and memorable. So this is what you're doing for students. I also love your sense of inclusion, how you try to include everybody. I think that's wonderful. Yeah,
we try. Yes. I mean, it's important, and not just younger and older, but also the different cultures and different and in our county, and the different the students that make up your class. They really develop the year and what you can do as a group. And so the cultures that the kids bring into the class is a huge factor in what we do, how we sound, where we travel, what we include, and what they bring to the table. And I think that's also one of my favorite things, because I'm the teacher, but I'm learning from them just as much as I'm teaching them. And I think that balance helps them and helps me in a classroom for sure.
Absolutely. So as you are creating your plan to build your program, communication is key. Also, with all of the traveling that you do, communication is very, very important. And so talk to us about how you successfully communicate with your students and your parents, and how you have successfully created a booster program.
Yeah, well, communication's drastically changed in my career. I feel like gone are the days where you say, here's the sheet of paper, here's the information, bring it back to me tomorrow and expect to get that. I think any teacher will know that it doesn't work. I don't know why it doesn't work. I feel like I was okay at that, like back in the day, but it doesn't work anymore.
I was too. I was okay with that.
I was okay with that. I was like, I'd put it in my folder, go in my backpack, and then somehow it'd end up in a locker, which we don't use lockers anymore.
Right.
A lot of kids don't, some do. And somehow it came back. That doesn't happen anymore. So email email obviously I still think is king. Social media is great. It definitely appeals to some people. There are some apps now that are really popular with students or with teachers to like remind kids of this event. I think those are great too. I use a combination of those.
Absolutely.
I've still found that really maintaining a really strong email list, not with just the kid's email address, like all school systems will give their kid this is the email address at K-12, whatever. But they may use a different email address. So what email address do you use? That's how I'm going to communicate with you. So that's what we do first and foremost. And then the remind apps are really good too for text messaging and things like that. So that takes a while to kind of get organized. It always takes me a couple weeks first of school to make sure this is right. You get in, everybody gets it. But once it's set, it's really great. And I think it's a great way to organize and stay on top of things. Boosters does the same thing. We organize our boosters the year in advance, so our boosters is all set before the school starts. We'll meet before school starts. I was very lucky when I came into this job. We had an established boosters program. Not everybody does. I have started a boosters program before, and that is an incredible challenge. Yes. And boosters programs are different all over the place. You have boosters programs which consist of that one awesome parent that does everything.
That's right.
And then you have those boosters parents that are basically in charge of the whole school. They run the boosters, they run the PTA or whatever it is. And so, I've been fortunate to have a really good boosters organization that is organized, and they don't need me to so much tell them to come to the meeting. We've always had our meetings consistently once a month. People ask, maybe we don't have to meet this month or that month, and I'm like, we should always meet. I just think it's important to have that set time. You don't want somebody showing up, I thought we were having a meeting, and then not want to be a part of it. Right. And so we've been very lucky, and that if I could talk a little bit more about the boosters. That might be a follow-up question, but
it is.
Yeah, but I was gonna say one of the things I think is key with boosters that we've had a lot of success is creating jobs for people that are not too overwhelming. In our boosters, we have fundraising. I truly believe the band director should not be the fundraiser. They should help out. I can't tell you how many boxes of fruit I've lugged over the years, but we should not be the ones collecting the forms, collecting the money, the stuff like that. That you're just kind of asking for trouble, I think. But the fundraising is so key, and so what we do is we have one person in charge of each of our fundraisers.
Smart.
That way we don't have one person always doing all the fundraisers. One person, this is my role, this is my role. And we try to incorporate a fundraiser before trip payment, for the kids. And so it's like, they have to have a deposit. Well, they have a fundraiser, then deposit. Then they do a big amount of money in. Then we have a fundraiser, then that's due, and so on and so forth, so that the kids have the opportunity to raise the money for their trips. And also, it's a great way to kind of pace out our fundraising and get money for the band as well to do the things that we need to do as well.
That's so smart.
Yeah.
To have a fundraiser before money is due. That's such a great tip for all of our teachers who are viewing today. In terms of traveling with your ensemble, I know that fundraising is very important to allow the students to be able to travel. And traveling is something that, as you know, we love to talk about here at WorldStrides. So tell me this, when you travel with your students, what makes a successful trip for you? How do you ensure that this trip is successful for your students?
Well, again, planning starts the year before.
Okay.
I mean, I can also say I was once a first-year teacher and came in and had to figure it out at the beginning of the school. So I've done it in the school year as well. But I love feedback from the students. I survey the kids, like to get ideas about things. And also a lot has to do with, maybe there's a specific show, say in New York City, that everybody really wants to see. That might drive the trip destination or something that we choose. So the choices of the trip is usually chosen the year before. And then and we sort of get kind of an overview of what it might cost, somewhere in a range like that. Nothing's set in stone. And that's actually where I go about, telling my admin and approaching them and saying what we want to do next year as a travel time. And we have that meeting and we sit down and discuss that stuff. So essentially, when I come into the beginning of the year, it's already approved, it's ready to go. We usually have our deposit in, so we can take advantage of the perks that might be associated with that, and we're ready to go. And then the first couple months of the year, I'm starting to get proposals about what we should do in that trip. And then at that point, we have kind of a general idea what our trip is, and that's when the kids will have to have a deposit available. And the deposit is so key. We have to have the deposit from a student in order for them to commit to the trip, because it's tricky to have 100 kids going on a trip and then all of a sudden nobody wants to go anymore, which doesn't happen, but it's tricky. So the deposit's very key. Of course, we always have a fundraiser which starts the first day of band camp that they have available, and then we go from there. So those are that's really the trick, I think, to successful trip travel, is just start early, pace it out. It's a marathon, it's not a sprint. You definitely have to do that. And the other thing is, I truly believe every year travel is key. It sounds daunting for a first year teacher, but if you're not used to traveling and you maybe only travel once every 4 years, that's great too, especially if that's the way the funds work and that's what your administration or you as a teacher are comfortable with. You certainly have to be comfortable with it. But every year travel makes it routine, and I think that routine allows it almost makes things easier, I think.
Okay.
I just think it almost makes it easier because we expect to do this fundraiser. When we have people call us in every year, I want my fruit. It's like if we only do it every 4 years, you're only going to get the fruit every 4 years.
You have regular customers.
Oh, we have
at
regulars.
This point.
Yeah, I have this little board that was like, I better make sure I call these people. They're going to be disappointed if they don't get the fruit. So yeah, so that I prefer every year travel. This, as I say, I'm starting my 16th year. This will be my 16th trip. I've traveled every single year, so I don't really know what it is without traveling. But
that's amazing.
Yeah, but it's but I think it's a very important part of the program, and for all the parts we already talked about, probably.
So you've been so successful in traveling every year. Last year you went to Nashville. Well, this year you went to Nashville.
Yeah, we went to Nashville.
Right? Congratulations on Nashville. Did you guys have a blast?
Oh my goodness, such a good. I didn't even know Nashville, so now I feel like I have a really good sense of it. And my wife and I are like, we got to go back.
Gotta go back. Good.
Go back.
Good. And then you guys are planning to go to Orlando.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. So you're absolutely correct, because we find that traveling every year can be a lot of work, and it can be challenging. So personally, how do you stay motivated so that you're able to travel every year?
Well, again, I think that the culture of the kids drives that a lot. We always travel in the spring, or at least we have. It's at a point of the year where your ensembles are really cooking. They're really sounding good, and you want to feature them. Kids they need a break too. They're excited about it. I think it gives you a kind of a constant 18 weeks till the trip, 17 weeks till the trip. That kind of thing motivates the kids when they come into your classroom, which motivates us as well. For me, every trip is different. Trips are a blast. They're incredibly stressful leading up till, I think, the moment everybody's on the bus or the plane or whatever you're doing. But there's something that happens once you're on that bus that's like, okay, we're here, we're all together, we're good, we'll be fine. And the trip usually is really a great time. I love it because I get to see experiences that I wouldn't necessarily do on a family vacation or just in general, but as a group, it makes a lot of sense. And I sort of feel like I could tell my friends, when you go there, you got to do this, you got to do that.
Good, yes.
And I think that's a neat thing as well. We do Orlando every 4 years, and I don't know anybody that doesn't like to go to Orlando.
True.
So I think
true.
That's always a motivating force. But the same with New York, we always get to see different shows. I think you go to New York every year and have a really neat experience, something different. So I've never done the same trip twice. So even though we might go to the same place, we do different things and stuff like that. So it definitely is motivating to keep it going. And the motivation of the parents and the students and the enthusiasm is really hard not to love and drive you as a teacher and an educator, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, I can't wait to hear about your trip to Orlando next year. I'm sure it'll be wonderful. Now, to transition to, I want to talk a little bit about the administration and how you get admin support and approval. Very similar to the way a CEO would run a company. You have to build a team of reliable resources that's going to help you and your students travel. And so talk to us about how you get support and buy-in from the administration.
Yeah, this can be tricky. I've worked for many different administrators. One of the big challenges with being an educator today is turnover. Not just, some people are lucky enough to have the same administrators every year. A lot of us have a different principal every year, and so it's like a different kind of challenge. But consistency in travel is key. Again,
Absolutely.
It's the same thing. If we, the kids that travel, I mean, we have such great behavior. I'm not saying you can't have something that happens, but if you do have a really great experience, it can really boost your program for next year. Parent support is tremendous help for boosters to go to admin and help with the travel thing. Most administrators I've gone for are very much supportive of travel. So when I go to a travel, there's a proposal just like there would be for any other thing that you've got to do. I mean, it's a very expensive, very big event that you're putting on for kids and parents. And so I have a very, I like to say organized packet that I put together that I can send to my administrators, and they can be a part of building the trip. Even though really it's done by us and me and the boosters, they can, the whole process there along the way. Nothing's not communicated to them to let them know what's going on with the trip. And administrators will have opinions about things that should happen, about chaperones or the way kids should stay in hotel rooms and things like that. And of course we have to listen to their ideas and tweak our trip to make sure it works. Okay. But I think if you're willing to do that, going open-minded, and again, plan early, you don't get caught off guard by things that might need to change late in the game when you're already committed and everything like that. So again, most importantly, consistency in travel, well-organized trips, and tons of parent support. Those are the things that I think really drive the ability to propose a trip to an administration and them to support it all the way.
I love how you said keep them involved at every point in the process.
Yeah.
That's just smart. That is very smart.
Yeah, and it's good, and it looks out for you as a teacher as well, so that they're not caught off guard. Even if the administrator didn't notice the packet, you say, well, I sent this to you. You seem to be okay with it. So that can happen. But I generally speaking, I think, with all aspects of teaching, keeping your administrators in the loop is really important. So, especially on a big trip and stuff like that. And, usually it's like having to tell the administrators, I'm sorry, you can't go. You just have to support it, because we got a lot of other people that need to go as people because they often want to go. But,
absolutely. Yeah. Okay. All right, let's talk about promotion. So very similar to a CEO, you have to make sure that you are, you have your PR information ready, and you have to be the PR expert when it comes to promoting your group. For a music program, there's so many things you guys have to promote, whether it be your fundraiser, the next trip you're going to take, winning awards that you may win at maybe a state competition. And so how do you promote your trip, and what are some tips that you can provide for us?
Yeah, promotion mostly early on just sort of needs to happen within the school, just kind of within the kids, get people on board. I find that the biggest promotion we get is sometimes when we come back. Like we come back and maybe we've had success, or they've won an award, or they've won an event. Sometimes local newspapers or the local news will pick it up and stuff like that. We have an event, an art fest that we do in the spring, and it's before we travel. And this is one of our big promoters. It's one of the things that we use as a fundraiser, and we generate a ton of money because it's one of the things that we are trying to push. These are the things we do with kids. These are the opportunities we offer them. So it's a big part of our art fest. We premiere the groups. They get to see the groups that are going to compete. We get to tell them where they're going, and we have tremendous community support from that. Every year's been different, though. I mean, again, sometimes I have a boosters organization that really promotes it in a larger scope, and sometimes it's much more within. But it is a big part of promotion, and we are lucky in the county to have a person that actually is in charge of promoting these things. And so when we go and we travel, again, communicating with administrators, which gets passed downtown, it becomes a part of the big compass, is what we call it, so that the people can be aware of where we're going and where we're traveling. And again, early, pick. If you say, we're going to travel this time, and you get it approved, that goes on the community calendar right away, so people can see that day for the whole year. So a lot of early promotion, and then I think a lot of celebration promotion almost sometimes when we get back. Of course, I'm always happy with just to have everybody back and healthy and everything like that. That's what matters to me. The trophies and the awards and the experiences that they have are just really like the bonus that I think that makes it great. Yeah.
Absolutely. I love how you pulled in all of your tips from before, assigning a role where you have a person who's specifically assigned to promotion of the trip.
Oh, yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, there's always that. one person, that's perfect for that.
Absolutely.
And again, sometimes I just think that if you find a small role, people always come to me, let me know I can help. Okay, well that's easy to do, but if you're a band director, you gotta hear that and say, you be careful what you say, because we're gonna find a way to help out. Because I think it's really important for you to help out, and so finding that little role for that person is very good. We've done promotional videos. Some of the ones are hilarious
nice.
over the years. We do that with our spring musicals as well, where you can see this is what putting the show together, this is what the trip was like, and sometimes we feature those at our banquets and things like that, which are kind of neat too. Yeah.
Nice. All right, well, we've duly noted the art show and promotional videos. I love both of them.
Yeah.
Okay, well, before we wrap up, you have a wealth of information to provide for our teachers out there. Is there anything else, any final thoughts on what makes Joel's music program successful?
I mean, I've been very lucky. I've got, I've been able to be here for many years, and so I've been able to be consistent in my travel. I've got a really, really wonderful community that I'm a part of that supports the arts and supports music and supports really anything that you want to do. If you got the passion, there'll be the way to support it. And not every place is like that. I'm also very lucky to have a decent-sized boosters program. Not every program is like that. I've also taught in small schools where I had that person, like we talked about, that helped out. And I think teaching can be very frustrating. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon. But it can be very frustrating, and putting a trip together can be very frustrating. But when you come to the summertime, which it is still the summertime for me, it gives you that time to reflect on all the great things that you do. And that's what makes teaching so wonderful. And I think that's why we keep doing it. And even though it's a lot of work, I think that it's totally worth it. And I think the kids know that, and they rally behind your efforts as a teacher and an educator. And again, these are just things that work for me. You could put somebody else in front of the camera and they'll tell you something completely different. And that's totally great, and I'd love to hear that too, because
of course,
5 years from now, my ideas might change completely.
Okay.
But this is where I am here in my career and what we do with our program. And so far, so good. So we'll see how it goes.
Very good, very good. Well, we so much appreciate your time with us today. We've learned a lot, and these are great things that we can use moving forward to help run our music programs just like a CEO would. So thank you so much, Joel.
Thank you very much.
All right, thanks.